So, our visitors from Arizona have gone home. I checked the temperatures today. Their high temperature today is going to be 41, and their low is 28. So, a slightly different context from us here, where even if our high got to 28 one day, it would be lovely. However, we are where we are by the grace of God. I want to ask one or two folks who were involved in the visit to come and share some things with us. So if Etta and Kenny and Jan would come, that would be great. There.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, you hosted 2 people. Why did you do that?
Well, I read in Pew News they were looking for beds, and I thought, I've got 2 beds, I'm moving them. And Jan spoke next week, and we're still looking for beds. And so again, no, I'm not doing it. I'm used to having family, I'm used to having friends. I've only got a wee house, and I've got a big hairy dog. Third week, Jan asked again. I thought, I've got to do this. So I did. And I have been blessed. And we have 2 lovely ladies. One that's the same age as myself, except I'm a year older than her now. And the other lady was 10 years our junior, so we were both, they didn't know each other very well. They knew each other in church, but not very well. Within a day, they were like sisters, and I think within the next day, the 3 of us were sisters. We shared so much, and talking about things that our faith had taken us through that we would never have been able to know about each other. So it was wonderful.
So, I don't mean it this way, but would you do it again?
Yes.
No, I'm not actually asking you to, but it was worth it.
It was worth it. The first night we had a wee meal because they weren't very hungry. And the phone rang, so I went to answer the phone, and it was my friend from England. And she said, "Oh, I forgot you were having visitors." I said, "It's quite all right, Anne. They're in the kitchen clearing up." So that was how it worked. They did get very tired, and as the week went on, they set their alarm. I set my alarm, but they never heard theirs. So I just sent the dog up. The light of the dog.
Yeah, right.
So it was fine.
Good, thank you very much. Kenny, I'm going to keep you till last.
He obviously thinks you're going to be shorter than me.
No, Kenny has a particular story that I want him to tell. So, what was your involvement with this visit?
My involvement was, I suppose, going back a couple of months, was help prepare for our American friends coming over and trying to organise and rally the troops for beds, but also to help plan the trip and what they were going to be doing. And the nearer it came and the more we knew what were happening, I suppose my stress level rose slightly. I like to have things controlled and know what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. Would that be reasonable to say?
Yes.
So I was definitely kind of out of my comfort zone, but actually, this wasn't what I was going to say, but you know, we had some things happen and we had to swap around different houses and different things. And we ended up with 5 people from the lay church in Kilmarnock, 1 young lady in Ayr, and then our own church family here who put people up in beds. And you you know, from the word go, that was just amazing. I had people round to my house that I didn't normally maybe have round to my house. We had a good wee evening. Obviously orange juice was on the menu, with some cheese, and just from there it just went on and on and on. What was the question?
What part did you play in this?
Well, I hosted, and I went along to the visits. I made copious amounts of flasks of coffee, along with laying up there in the balcony. If I see one more pot of coffee again, I'll scream. But actually, although I'm not wild in spontaneity sometimes, it was all those things that made the difference. It was going on a trip that somebody didn't feel that they could go any further, coming back to the garden, having a wee seat. It was the involvement of standing at a praise night and somebody just throws their arm around you and all of a sudden their head's on your shoulder. It was the fact of somebody just suddenly saying, one of our brothers in Lord Paz, relaxed, let's all stop and pray. It didn't matter where you were, what you were doing, and it was just amazing. Don't ask me if I almost again. No, I had a blast. I did. I had a blast. But do you know, it was also my family involvement. My dad is 78. Is he 78? Yes, 88. No, 78. I will say, I don't know how old you think I look. But the pastor's wife, she's not here, I can say that now. Rhonda said to me, before I met your husband, I thought that your dad was your husband. I ask you. Now this is a good opportunity for you to say, oh no, Jan, you don't know that. Thank you, Penny. I said, how old do you think my dad is? She said, well, we didn't realise he was as old as that. We thought he was a good 10 years younger. Thought you kind of landed in your feet. I said, thanks very much. The good Lord told me to shut up at that particular moment. But it was absolutely amazing. I just...
Is there anything in particular that you learned?
Yeah, I did. I suppose I kind of watching Joyce Meyer in the telly for a lot recently, and I kept taking this, and it was, are you an unbeliever believer? So you do believe, and you do talk, and you do the all, you know, and you all sing, and you all know verses from the Bible. Actually, do you follow through? Do we actually do what we say? And you know, I'm not going to use the big crucial words, you know, it was humbling, it was this. It just was an experience to be with somebody who I wanted to be like. Not like, that's wrong. I wanted to be in that person's company. I wanted to learn from that person. I wanted to be with that person. I wanted to know more about that person, and really that's what I hope I will achieve rather than just maybe not being that person.
I'm just going to let you tell your story.
Okay, on Tuesday evening we had 5 American guys who came to our house for dinner, and we said we would host 5 of them. I think 3 of them were Native Americans. They came to dinner, they were a great laugh, they're all in their mid-20s, their son's 15, so we fed them haggis, and I think they liked it, they ate it, they cleared the plates anyway. And after that, the guys just wanted to go outside in a garden, play football with our son. did a teaching exchange, decided to go to British Columbia in Canada. And when we went there, we did it through email, and we emailed a teacher over there back and forward, agreed that what you do is you swap houses, but you also swap jobs. And so when we did that, I didn't realise the person was really telling lots of lies at the time. And this is there's a reason why I'm telling this, because when the person came over and we moved, we went to their house, flew over to Canada. Our boys were only at the time, 2 and 7. We went into the house, and as soon as we walked in the house, we realised there was something very, very wrong. The person was very much into the cult and satanic stuff, but what was in the house, it was all First Nations, it was all Native American. And so we had an incredibly dark experience, very, very dark experience that I'm not going to go into, but we ended up virtually homeless in Canada. But a lady who opened the door and let us into the house basically took us into her home. She didn't know us at all. All she knew is we had 2 wee boys and we had nowhere to stay. So she took us into her home, and we're basically, even now, 13 years ago, we are family. But the fact that it was Native American culture, the person had lived in an Indian reservation, her son was half Native American, or what they call First Nations there. The fear of that culture for me, for 13 years, has been incredible. I mean, just it has, fear just holds you down. It just keeps you down, and just holds you back from what you can do and what you can do for God as well. The fact that we've come to this church, just came quite recently, about a year and a half ago, and you have got such a strong connection with Native Americans. Last Sunday, I was over there, and when they stood up and they started singing a Native American song about healing and God has been beautiful, I was crying. I don't know if anybody saw it, but I'm hiding. My 15-year-old son sitting next to me, and the tears were, I couldn't quite, I'm not an emotional person, but it was just a sheer and utter relief. The only way I can describe it is a John 10:10 experience. The thief has come to kill, steal, and destroy, but Jesus has come to give life in all its fullness. And that's what it's like. It's just a sheer relief. When Jim Noble preached that passage of scripture, that was just directly into my heart. And that's what God does. And I went back to the whole after the church service, and I wept for an hour. And I say, I'm not an emotional person, but just God released me from all that had held me down and all that fear. It's just amazing. Our God is an amazing God. The fact that we were here, and we didn't ask to host Native Americans. The day before, the night before, I was actually quite afraid of what might happen in inviting these people into our house because of what had happened to myself and my family. But we shared as brothers in Christ. We were able to share and praise God. And I now will pray for those 3 guys. I'll pray for Landon and Gerald and Desert. And we've now got a bond in Christ as well. I just think God is an absolutely amazing God. Honestly, our experience, it had a huge impact, negative impact in our life, but God is always in control. Even we're going, what is happening here? What are you doing, God? And I was really, 30 years ago, I was furious with God, going, what is going on? Because I've always tried to serve God from a young man, but God is ultimately in control, and in His time and in His favour, He has brought complete reconciliation to me and my family as well. And it's a time when we really need it. For this time, moment in time, Lorna's mum was seriously on the hospital, and we needed that at this time. We needed to know that God is there. He cares for all of us. And so that's the message I want to share with you. God is ultimately in control. What an awesome God.
Amen. I have another card here that says this: that their hearts may be encouraged, being knit together in love, to reach all the riches of full assurance of understanding and the knowledge of God's mystery, which is Christ. Colossians 2:2. To Moncton and Prestwick North Church, this trip has been so transformative for me. I have grown to know myself because I have grown to better know Christ. I could not have had the experience I did if it weren't for the people that have welcomed me here. I am so grateful for all at Moncton and Prestwick, and for the sisterhood that is shared with Desert Hills Presbyterian Church. That's what it's about. It's about learning from each other. It's about sharing with each other. And you know, we could not plan. We didn't know that story when we chose who to send to Kenny and Lorna. But God did. You know, we didn't know how they would get on with Etta. But God did. God has plans and purposes for all of us. One of the things that really struck me was were these guys from Loop. And they didn't hide the fact that they had been in jail. They didn't hide the fact that they were in recovery from drugs and alcohol. They didn't hide the fact that life was a real struggle. They were just honest. The word that came to mind was raw. And raw is an interesting word. If you use it of talent, it can mean not quite ready. Or you can view it as full of potential. If you use it of vegetables, it can be not quite cooked or really good for you. When you use it in other ways, it's normally not good. Raw nerves, raw skin. And so one of the things that I was reminded of this week is that we live in a world that is raw, where there are people who are really struggling in all sorts of ways. People struggling with addiction, struggling with poverty, struggling with domestic violence and abuse, loneliness. Life is hard for so many people. And where do they find help? Where in the world would you go when you're struggling? Well, it should be here. It should be to God's people. Because we're called to love those who are struggling. We're called to serve the world. We're called to engage with the rawness and to do something about it. And that's what I was reminded of this week. Sadly, for so many congregations, for so long, it has been about doing what they like doing. Coming, going through a routine, an order of service that they're familiar with, having the tea and coffee, maybe giving some money, but not actually engaging with people who need their help. And so that's what I was reminded of this week. I want to be part of a church where people who are broken and struggling can find a home, where they can find hope, where they can find healing, where they can find forgiveness. And these guys, you know, texting each other saying, well, it was Dean, he'd relapsed and he had started drinking again. And they were devastated because they were so concerned for him. And they just stopped and prayed. And I think for them, part of the struggle is they knew it could have been any one of them. In this case, it was him. And so they were anxious for him and they prayed for him. I want to be part of a church where those who are discouraged can be encouraged, can be lifted up, and can be helped. Where people find unconditional love. And the thing is, I see that here. I see people coming about us who have been in jail. And I'm sure most of you don't know, but there's folks in the congregation who are beginning to work with an organization called Caring for Ex-Offenders. And it's just been done quietly because you can't highlight that. But it's beginning to happen. I see people come and they tell me, do you know, I feel at home when I'm with you. And that's fantastic. That's what it should be. I want to encourage you to think about getting involved in these things, because it is a real blessing. Of course, it's a challenge. Of course, it's a thought giving up your house. Of course, it's a thought wondering how on earth you're going to cope and what people are going to come to your house and what it's going to be like. Of course, it is. But it's in taking that step that you learn and that you're blessed. And I know there's all sorts of reasons why people didn't get involved, but you know, I have to be honest and say I was quite disappointed that we had to go and get 5 people in another congregation. But you know what? I met them and I got to know them and I was blessed by meeting them. And we've been able to build links with another congregation. And I don't know where that's going to go, but it's good. And it was me that was wrong. I should have trusted God that He knew what He was doing. But we need to get involved, because that's fellowship. It's in sharing the stories. It's in learning from each other and engaging with each other. We have a lady in the congregation who spoke to some of the folks from the team. God had given her things to share with them. And towards the end of their time here, they were sitting together and they were talking and they were sharing the blessings they'd had, the difficulties they'd had, and all of that kind of stuff. And one of the team said, you know, when that lady took us aside and told us what she had to tell us, that was really God. You know, she knew stuff, and that was a real challenge for me, and that was really, you know, and she spoke to me, and she was right. And one of the other team members, his dad had died 4 months ago. And it was a very last-minute decision to come on this trip. And on Saturday night, they were at our house, and Gerald, he had his guitar with him, and just everywhere he went, he played the guitar, and he started to sing. And he was in our kitchen, and he started to play, and people kind of gathered round. And in one way, it was a bit strange, because we all had the mobile phones out, so that we get the words, so that we were singing. So people would just shout out a song, and we'd all on the phone get the words and start singing this song. But it was just brilliant, because it wasn't forced. It was people just getting together to worship God. And I noticed that halfway through this boy had left. I didn't know where he had gone or why he had left or what had happened. But he was saying that he got to the point as we were there, and it was the first time that he had been able to cry. And he just had to leave. And then he had been told this word from God, which was, "You've been set free. Now on you go." And for him, he took that to mean he was to start the process of getting on with his life. Not that he would forget, because that would be inappropriate. But it's how he was going to carry his grief into the future. You can't plan for that. You can't put that in a schedule. That only happens because people have spent time together and with God. That's what it's about. That's the fellowship. And that's the challenge for us. We do that with them because we put in so much effort when they come for 10 days. How do we do that week by week by week? That's the challenge that somehow we have to address. We have to share with each other. We have to learn with and from each other. Every year, we send a report to the presbytery about the church. And it's all about numbers. Because that's one way of measuring everything. What if we could say, this week, we are more abounding in love? What if we could say, faith was overflowing this week? What if we could say, people had given their lives to Jesus this week? We have increased over 70% in fellowship than last week. What if we could measure those things? Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be encouraging? Rather than to say, oh well, there's not so many folk here. We are abounding in love. We are abounding in grace. We are overflowing with mercy. People are growing in fellowship with each other and with God. That's the challenge. It's up to you to work out how to do that, because I don't know. But I'm willing to have a go at it. And I'm willing to work at it. Because it's God's command. And when you do it, you get the blessing. Because God's commanded it. And when you do what God commands, He honors it.